I'm Dan Kleffler in New York, and as the financial markets are coming to a close on Wall Street for this Friday, January 23rd, this is Story Stock. Box. It's a cloud-based file storage company. It's going boom on Wall Street today, making its market debut on the New York Stock Exchange. Investors bid that stock up nearly 80%, betting, in fact, that the company will continue growing in the space. Today's IPO raising $175 million for that company. So to give us a bit more color on the Box, I want to bring in Jack Moore from the Street. And Jack, Box obviously having a big day on Wall Street today. Why was the Street so bullish on this one?
It was a pretty incredible day, even as far as IPOs go. The IPOs usually have a pop, but this one was a tremendous one. I think there are a few factors. I think one, they priced their IPO very conservatively, very low. The last thing you want is to have your company that you've had for 10 years come onto the public markets and not do anything. So I think the CEO was especially careful about that. Also, if you're a CEO, you always want to point to performance. So if you price it a little bit lower, you can always say, over the last year, our company is up this amount, and it makes it easier if it's priced lower. Secondly, Wall Street loves their tech IPOs. They love these hot IPOs, and this one, there's a lot of pent-up demand. It's been known that they were about to IPO for 10 months, and the company has been known well before that as well. And finally, low supply. It's simple economics. They only offered $140 million in this deal, and that's well below what a lot of large or significant IPOs are priced at or are offered. So I think those factors all coalesced with each other. But I mean, in retrospect, they should have priced it a little bit higher.
Wow, even more to be left there. So today had actually been months in the planning, right? I mean, this IPO had taken delays, roughly 10 months, in fact, to finally make it happen.
Yeah, it was one of those drawn-out sagas. We were always wondering when is Box actually going to come to market, or is it ever going to come to market? But they had filed about 10 months ago. I think there are a few things were in play there as well too. So I think they filed their IPO. They announced that they were going to IPO 10 months ago. I think that was way too early, and I think they realized that pretty quickly. They were burning cash at a pretty high rate. They knew they could still get venture capitalist funding, and Wall Street cares about profitability. If you don't have a path to profitability, at least in the next 2-3 year timeline, then it's really tough to make it on these public markets. And they didn't really yet. And so they've paved a stronger path to profitability, even though they're not near profitability yet, but it's at least in the not too distant horizon. And so I think that it was two, they saw that the venture capital markets were extremely hot. They were going to get some pretty high valuations. I think their last one was $2.8 billion on the offer price. This deal was $1.6 billion. Now it's obviously risen up, but they could get a lot of capital in those markets, so there was no reason for them to rush. And I think that was the right decision.
Okay, so from the consumer point of view, then, how does Box actually stand up, make itself totally different from the rest of the landscape, like some of the cheaper products out there, maybe by Microsoft or Amazon?
Well, these guys serve the enterprises. They actually serve almost 50% of the Fortune 500 companies. And what matters to enterprises more than functionality, all these guys have strong functionality, is security. That's the number one thing. And that's right now is Box's biggest competitive advantage. And that's why they're able to command higher prices than Microsoft or Google. Going forward, though, they need to make sure that, one, they need to constantly improve, constantly make sure that their security is the best. Because if it's not the best, then Google and Microsoft will run in there and stomp them. And so I think that that really is all that matters in this market.
Okay, and then if you look at the direct competitor there, that's Box, but another competitor, Dropbox. Are we expecting them to follow suit? Are they going to be making any big plans of an IPO?
So there have been rumblings for a while about them, too. I think it will come relatively soon, especially, I mean, if you're them and you see your competitor, Box, price their IPO and jump so much and see that type of demand, it would be hard for them not to want to rush to market. They're a much bigger company. I think the last round of their private funding was a valuation of roughly $10 billion. And so there will be an even bigger IPO. And also, they serve the consumer market, so consumers are more familiar with them. So as far as IPOs go, I think that'll even be a much bigger one.
Well, we'll have to wait and see exactly how big of a check they're going to be able to cash. All right, Jack Moore from the Street. Jack, thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend too. Thank you.
You've been watching Story Stock. Stay with abcnews.com for your latest headlines. I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.